Hey guys, Henry here again. Today we're going to be chatting about Paris Fashion Week. Paris Fashion Week for me is always the most enjoyable. I love France as a nation and I love Paris as a city, so there's always a bit of an extra incentive for me to check out the stuff, and some of the biggest brands show there, so naturally there's a lot to look at. I think, as discussed in the Milan video, it's a really important time for fashion and sort of seeing what's going on and what brands are doing. A lot of different creative directors in place, a lot of brands changing their directions, and a lot of brands also in like pivotal moments where we need to see something from them to basically have the creative directors keeping their jobs. So kicking things off, I think in general, one brand that I love talking about and I love seeing what they do is Bianca Saunders. I think Bianca as a designer is great. The pieces that she's put out previously have always been really fun, really eye-catching and interesting. So naturally seeing that next step up every year is amazing. So Bianca previewed her latest collection for a showcase as opposed to a runway, which is always more cost-effective in general. She said she really wanted this runway to capture everything that the brand was about right now, and I think it's clear that it does that. You've got things like this beautiful denim set here, which you would never think is denim because of the amazing bold vinyl wrap they've put over it. It just puts a really nice, clever twist, infusing the two almost polar opposites. A denim set is usually quite refined, a bit more simplistic. Obviously, you can do different things with seams and embellishments and stuff like that, but by putting a really bold red vinyl wrap over it, it just puts a whole new twist to it, and it's really, really cool and really, really eye-catching. I always love the mix of conventional tailoring that they do with some more casual and outlandish pieces. As you can see here, these blue pants obviously contradict themselves in them being this pleated, almost suit trouser. Those amazingly bold white shoes. Again, another flat, more tapered, tiny toe box shoe, which I've been loving at the minute. And then having this outlandish and quite bold knitted and printed long sleeve with all the paneling and everything, it just is really interesting. It's pleasing to the eye and something which I definitely think is a cool fit in general. Again, it was another brand where collar detailing was ever present. You can see that here with the pointed finish on this trench jacket here too. I think it's really interesting what they've done with it. Playing with collars in general has been ever present this season, so it's really nice to see it done in quite a unique way. Also, those bold shoulder / torso flaps on the left and right of the jacket are just really nice too. The jacket overall is great. I'd love to see this in person for sure. Again, I think this outfit perfectly encapsulates Bianca Saunders' design language. The contrasting nature of these bold gingham / just general checked prints. It's a very awkward combination, but it does also have that beautiful intrigue to it. And I love what appears to be these paneling across the back that makes those edges rounded and sit a bit differently than a normal shirt would sit against the back and the shoulder area. I really like the layered detail at the waist too. I think it's definitely an area that a lot of brands will just gloss over and not do anything with, so seeing a bit of progression and seeing a bit of innovation in that area and that detail is really cool. I think Bianca is best known for her twisted seam detailing, and I think this look shows that off perfectly. You know, you've got it on the denim, what appears to be a raw denim here, just making those pants sit a bit different. It almost gives them a jogger-like cuff, which sits nicely on top of those blue shoes. And then you can almost argue that there's twisted seam detailing across the jacket. Love the collar popping out at the top as well, and just the paneling in general makes it sit differently and just all in all look a bit different and stand out next to an alternative from another label. So definitely Bianca Saunders is one that I tell you to keep your eyes on. Pieces are actually normally really affordable for what they are too, so it's always one which I think if you're looking to get into sort of those next-gen designers, it's an easy option. Moving on, I guess this is probably one of the big guns going into Paris Fashion Week, Vivienne Westwood and Andreas Kronfeller, I think that's how you pronounce his name, his collection. I think there's a lot of talk around it, obviously after the sad passing of Vivienne recently, and everybody just wants Vivienne Westwood to get to that peak that it was at in the 70s, you know, that peak punk fashion, and that's what we want to see. It had a definite shift back to punk roots with almost a bit of a medieval twist and a medieval interest there. To begin, I think this look personally reminds me heavily of the Anglomania stuff that's been done previously with the brand, and I didn't know, but Andreas is actually the person who was in charge of that recently, and I think in general he was in charge of Anglomania from the get-go, so that's always nice to see that influence come through, you know, the bold detailing with the distressing on the pants, as well as the really obnoxious print throughout and the colour scheme as well. just great. Moving on to this look now, I think it was definitely my favourite. I love the layering throughout it with what appears to be this sort of tunic sweatshirt going on. Those maroon tones are coming through, which I've spoke about before. Hope you're not getting bored of me chatting about them. And the pop of the red at the collar is great too. I also think is accessorized perfectly with that black leather bag. Reminds me very much of those popular Telfar ones, which I'm still trying to get in my wardrobe. So yeah, all in all, really clean fit. I think as a talking point as well, I never thought I'd be interested in Sam Smith being on the runway. And I think whether you love it or hate it, it's definitely an eye-catching moment in general. And then if you can stray your eyes away from this guy's thighs, I think this jacket is really strong. I love the quilted detailing throughout it. I love the sort of square torso shoulder area that's on it. And I think it'd be really nice to see in person as well. All in all, I think the show definitely had some things going in its favour, but it just seemed a bit sporadic, a bit all over the place. Didn't really make too much sense all in all. And I think this is one of the big issues that's happening with some collections for brands where we need to see progression. There's just not really a direction there. They're trying to cater to all things. And I think they just always try and cover all bases, and by doing that cover none at the same time. It would be better to see them go all in on one look, and then the people who like it will like it and the people who don't. Having a split opinion on it is so much better in my eyes for fashion than having people everywhere being like, oh, it's alright, it's mediocre. So it's definitely something where I want to see a lot more, and I want to see a bit more clear direction going on to be able to say it's moving in the right direction. Once again, if you're new around here, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, put notifications on. It means a lot and helps me out a bunch. And next big one, Vetements. Garama's brought back fashion feuds. I'm telling you this for free. He took to the runway to exemplify this feud he's had with Demna that he's been very vocal about, and he didn't hold back at all. It's always another layer to something. You know, when you have drama, say in football, or even when you had drama at school, it always made that day go a bit more interesting. And yeah, it definitely makes things hit a bit harder. I think in terms of the actual looks, it was more of the same from Vetements, you know, that obnoxiously oversized, long looks, just making everything a bit over the top, and that was executed perfectly. I love this check set here, what appears to be almost like a double layer shoulder. It looks like you're wearing a jacket on top of the jacket, but it's all incorporated. And then I also love the tones in this. The different colours complement each other very well. I really like the shoulders on this. I love a bold shoulder at the minute, so the shoulder pad detailing is really sick. But I guess we'll talk about the actual references and the shading going on. Kicking things off, not mum's favourite, as worn by Anwar Hadid. So the subliminal sort of messages going on there are very clear. Don't think this was under the radar for people who are looped in, but it's an interesting point to talk about. This model here is Jelena Carlusa, I think you pronounce her name, and she famously has called out Kim Kardashian, one of the big individuals that are so important for Balenciaga, for jacking her style. So by putting her in the runway, it's sort of an under the radar diss against Demna again, just for the sake of it. Always interesting to see Cristiano Ronaldo's partner on the runway too, another one to just get a bit of buzz and attention, I think. Whether it was needed, I don't really know. I actually really like this look with the layered t-shirts on the top. I've seen some similar things done by a lot of brands recently, but this is a sort of unique way of doing it. The tightness of it, everything is really cool. I'd love to be able to pick this up when it drops. And then again, another diss here to Demna. It's a clear rip-off of that famous Speed Hunter hoodie from Balenciaga that came out at the start of his tenure. I think I'd be intrigued as well for you guys to sort of give me your thoughts on this. Do we want to see more fashion feuds? Is it something that's welcome on the runway? Is it a bit childlike? Is it a bit immature? I think the runway was dramatic, eccentric, and had the controversy that Vetements always brings to the table, whether that be when Demna started it or the progression now with Guram. I think sometimes we are seeing now that the runway is being used for everything but showing off clothing, so being able to incorporate it into the looks is fun, but I also don't want to see it take over the whole direction for a brand going into a season. Next up, another big creative director shift around with Alexander McQueen. Sean McGeer, I think that's how you pronounce that too. So the changing of the guard is a big talking point at McQueen. I think it is fun to see a young designer who's come through the ranks a bit get their opportunity and their time to shine, so I really want things to go in his favour here. I think in general there was a lot of bold looks. And I think you can see that perfectly in this first one here with the layered knit hood. I really like the chunky gauge knit that they've used, and it really just has a nice feel to it. It's obviously going to be comfortable, and it's very seasonally appropriate. Eccentric collars were another big talking point in the overall runway. I think this pinstripe soup is really cool with that bold lime green collar pop. I think I've been trying to take a nosy at these bold suited looks a bit more. It's definitely something which I think if you can get these different suits and different types of formal looks into your wardrobe, it does make it stand out and makes you look a bit more interesting. You can see how bold the collars then went with this fuzzy knit number. I do worry about how hot it was under there for the poor girl, and I think this wrap detailing on the jeans is cool. It's definitely something which I've seen coming through in general trends, you know, Pinterest, people messing around within streetwear and different looks, so it's nice to see that influence there. This was definitely my favourite look and reminds me of what McQueen's meant to be all about. The flare in the jeans with those frayed details going up each leg, as well as it being complemented nicely with the studded leather jacket. I think the fit of everything is perfect, and I think the pointed shoes just complete the outfit overall. Very cool, very sleek, big fan. It's also interesting to talk about this. I think there's definitely this almost like dollhouse trend coming under the radar a bit. We saw this in Marc Jacobs' recent show in New York, utilising big furniture to almost make it seem like the models are dolls, and the way that their hair was done and everything was clearly influenced by that. And then you could even go as far to say the Margiela Couture show also had elements of it with the glossy beauty look. I think the big bold shoes then complementing that shiny plastic dress is very interesting. Whether it's something that's going to make the brand appealing to some people, I don't know. So it's another one where unfortunately I did think the runway is just a bit all over the place. It doesn't really capture any particular aesthetic. Again, it seems like they're trying to do loads of different stuff all at the same time. You know, jack of all trades but master of none comes to mind. I really hope it progresses further. It is the first collection under him, and I think people need to try and not scrutinise it too much. People are already, you know, talking about, oh, so-and-so should have been the CD here, so-and-so should have got that job. And I think you've just got to give these people time, man. I really do think that at the minute, everybody's so quick to talk down on a particular runway or talk down on an aesthetic that somebody's bringing to the table, rather than seeing how it progresses. Fashion is all about opinion. Being able to have that opinion is a blessing, and being able to have different takes on different elements of fashion is everything that we want and everything that makes fashion what it is. Sometimes you need stuff to be a bit off trend and be trying to do too much to then build into something greater. So I'm hoping this is just a short setback for the designer. And finally, another giant to talk about, Balenciaga. I'm not gonna lie, for me this season has solidified an aching pain almost that I've had that Demna can no longer design. I think he's come under increased scrutiny, obviously, after all the controversy and after he's saying he was going back to what Balenciaga's always been about, and it literally did it for a season, and then he went straight back to, you know, the audacious looks and the audacious, viral, trendy sort of nature of the runways. I think that edgy design language and the virality of shows is definitely lost its appeal this season. I think there's been a lot of talk about, is there any point for this? Why are we seeing this? And I think these questions are ever present at the minute. For me, the accessories he's been putting out recently have been cool. I love the pierced hat from last season, and I think the beanie that I'll show here with these semi-sheer eye holes is an interesting take, a bit fun, a bit playful, what we like to see from Demna. You're gonna get some funny looks being out in public with this, but when would you ever not wearing some Balenciaga, really? Let's talk about the eBay outfit. I think as an outfit, it's actually really strong. I don't see any issues with the fit of everything. It's very nice with the wraparound polo or shirt on the waist. Really cool. But does the eBay logo bring anything to the table? Do we want to be wearing practically expensive eBay merch? I don't think so. I thought it was cool how they incorporated eBay into the runway. Each invite was a personalized item for the actual individual off eBay. So some people got some really fun vintage Balenciaga accessories, which is always cool to see. Moving on as well, I like this all black look. I think the accessories with the sunglasses and the scarf, the bold nature of them is really cool. The fur lining on what appears appears to be a bomber jacket there is really nice too. Really simple, really effective. I'm always a big fan of what appears to be almost the Balenciaga sport range too. The incorporation of those nylon tracksuits with the bold, oversized looks are always great. But again, it is just a glorified Adidas tracksuit when you look at it. Paneling's cool on the track pants, and I think the colours used are nice, but is it something that I'm going to be spending arguably £1,000 on? I don't think I can bring myself to do that. And then I actually really like this look. The tribal print is very reminiscent of the noughties. You could argue that it has a bit of a tramp stamp vibe to it, which I don't know whether that's something they'd want to go for or not. Tell me in the comments what you think. Again, we can see that semi-sheer beanie going on. But yeah, I like the elongated look of the zip up. The bold, dirty nature of the jeans is cool. The pointed toe on the shoes, really nice. You can definitely see the influence of almost Bottega in the way that the bags are positioned too. All in all, nice fit. It's definitely something I want to talk in more detail after seeing the Balenciaga show about, have we seen the end of virality on the runway? Do we care about those things done purely for the sake of getting controversy and getting social media buzz around the show? So let me know in the comments what you think. Sometimes when things are just being done for the sake of trying to get a bit of hype around it, it doesn't hit anymore. So with that, we wrap up Fashion Month, Fashion Weeks for Fall Winter 24. I think it's been really cool to see what everybody's putting out. There's definitely a lot of safe takes going on. I think there's a lot of things that could be done better, which is always actually quite nice to see. I think by there being a lot of things wrong with some brands, it's going to be cool to see the progression and where they go to next. I think in doing so, we will naturally always see something different next season, so it makes SS25 even more appealing. I always find spring summer in general as runway shows far more exciting. There's always a bit more colour, a bit more extra added something about the pieces. But I'd love to know what you guys think of the shows overall. What was your favourite? What was your least favourite? What do you think was the most important? Is there any particular items you're looking to buy? Let me know in the comments for sure, and let's have a chat. But that's all from me today, guys. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.